The Citadel sphere was built to inspire awe, not fear. Its colossal chamber, an amphitheater of floating platforms, crystalline data streams, and shimmering gravity wells, was meant to symbolize unity among the 27 elder civilizations. Yet as Ambassador Cale Mercer stepped into the hall, he felt only tension, sharpened like a blade pressed against his spine. Every alien delegate watched him with a species-specific blend of distrust and calculation. Some whispered through pheromone clouds. Others blinked in layered eyelid sequences that conveyed silent hostility. Cale kept his stride steady, his expression unreadable. After 10 years dealing with these species, he had learned this much. Looking calm unsettled them more than any threat. High Consul Voreth presided at the chamber's center. The Dravik leader towered above the assembly on a raised platform of black metal that seemed to drink the surrounding light. His reptilian frame was draped in ceremonial armor, angular and cold. As Cale reached the human delegate's seat, Voreth's deep, resonant voice rolled through the chamber. The session resumes. The final vote will now be cast on Neutralization Protocol 7F, the containment and disarmament of the Terran species. Containment. Disarmament. The Council never used the word war, but everyone understood what it meant. Cale lowered himself into his seat, folding his hands with deliberate calm. His datapad dimmed as the voting interface activated. Around him, 27 glyphs flickered one by one as delegates cast their decisions. He watched them without expression. The outcome had been predetermined months ago. The last glyph brightened. Neutralization Protocol, approved, 27-1. The chamber murmured with relief, fear, and triumph. A dozen species turned to study Cale, waiting for a meltdown, a plea, something. Instead, he rose slowly, smoothing the front of his charcoal coat. He smiled. Not wildly. Not defiantly. Just enough to freeze the room in place. You really shouldn't have done that, Cale said. A ripple of shock passed through the delegates. Several recoiled, others leaned forward as though witnessing a predator reveal fangs. Cale let the words settle before continuing. Earth will interpret this as a hostile act, he said evenly. Our defense charter guarantees a response. Voreth's eyes narrowed. You presume the Council fears retaliation? Cale's gaze bordered on amused. No. I assume the Council doesn't understand what it just triggered. Murmurs intensified. A few delegates began consulting their aides. Information flickered across holoscreens behind them. The tension was rising exactly as Cale planned. Then the alarms sounded. A shrill, pulsing tone filled the chamber while red lights lanced through layers of artificial gravity. Floating data streams flickered, warped, and snapped apart, visual evidence that Citadel infrastructure had been breached. No one moved at first. The idea that someone could penetrate Citadel systems was unthinkable. Cale watched the panic unfold with quiet observation. Voreth smashed his taloned hand onto his console. Security! Identify the source! A dozen defense nodes activated across the chamber, scanning for intrusions. Holographic error sigils cascaded in cascading streams of alien languages. One by one, they delivered the same response. Origin unknown. Location, multiple access points. System control, compromised. Accusations erupted instantly. The humans did this, one delegate hissed. Impossible, another countered. The Citadel's firewall is ancient, unbreakable. It must be internal sabotage. Silence! Voreth thundered. The chamber stilled. He turned his attention back to Cale. Explain this. Cale tilted his head, genuinely curious. You think Earth would attack the Citadel? Before even sending an official response to your vote? You deny involvement? I deny needing to. If Earth had attacked your systems, you wouldn't be standing right now. That sparked fresh unease. Cale watched as the Council's pupils constricted into razor-thin slits. I warned the Council last cycle, Cale continued. Manipulated sensor logs. Disappearing transports near the Dravik borders. Weapons research hidden behind environmental studies. You refused to investigate. Now your own infrastructure is turning against you. The delegates shifted, uncertainty eroding their earlier confidence. Kale clasped his hands behind his back. Neutralization protocol or not, the truth is catching up. You've been infiltrated from within for months. Vorith hissed a low, rumbling threat. You imply conspiracy. I imply nothing, Kale said. I have proof. For a heartbeat, every species froze. Kale withdrew a small crystalline drive from his pocket, transparent, humming with contained data. He placed it gently on the human delegate podium. This contains internal council communications you never meant to see, including messages linking high-ranking officials to the disappearance of exploration fleets, and the framing of Earth in several fabricated treaty violations. Shock rippled across the platforms. Delegates whispered frantically, bodies tensing with instinctive panic. Some stepped away from Vorith, others stared at him with dawning betrayal. Kale didn't touch the drive again. This evidence will be delivered to every neutral power by noon's cycle. You intend to blackmail us? Vorith snarled. Kale shook his head. I intend to tell the truth. A concept humans value more than you assume. The alarms intensified. A deep vibration rolled through the chamber floor, followed by a dissonant hum that made several species flinch. The Citadel was attempting to reboot itself, but someone, was interfering. Kale watched Vorith closely. You built this crisis. Earth simply refused to play the role of victim. Vorith leaned forward, voice low and venomous. Your species is dangerous. Unpredictable. You multiply, adapt, and defy order. We voted today to restore balance. You voted to protect your power, Kale replied. And you miscalculated. Before Vorith could respond, a thin plume of blue light erupted from the ceiling, Citadel engineers teleporting into the chamber. They scrambled to diagnose the breach, speaking in frantic overlapping clicks and pulses. Kale turned toward the exit platform. I'll return once Earth receives your declaration. I advise you not to escalate further. Desperation leads to mistakes. You dare walk out? Vorith spat. Yes, Kale said without slowing. Because the moment you voted, the game ended. The war hasn't begun, Vorith growled. Kale paused at the threshold, his silhouette framed by the failing luminescent walls. It has, he said. You just haven't realized who started it. He left the chamber as the alarms crescendoed. Behind him, the Council of Ancient Species, creatures who once believed themselves unshakable, sat paralyzed by uncertainty, betrayal, and a threat they no longer understood. Humanity hadn't fired a single shot. But the galaxy had already changed. Before the alarms ever screamed through the Citadel, before the vote sealed Earth's fate, a single encrypted transmission had set everything in motion. Kale remembered the moment clearly, a quiet evening in the lunar embassy, a cup of espresso cooling beside him, and a blinking symbol on his console indicating a message from Earth intelligence. Priority Black Sigma. Human domain security threat detected. The contents were simple. Sensor logs across 3 border systems had been tampered with. Entire exploration vessels had vanished without distress calls. Key council members had exchanged encrypted communications routed through Dravik networks. Communications that did not match their official reports. The implications were obvious and dangerous. Humanity wasn't just being watched. It was being set up. Kale spent the next 72 hours combing through the layered data, cross-checking starship registries, and reviewing diplomatic transcripts. What he saw painted a picture that no one wanted to acknowledge. The elder civilizations had begun closing ranks. The realization reminded him of something an old mentor once said. Fear is not loud. It's quiet patterns repeating where they shouldn't. Those patterns were everywhere now. The first confirmation came from the frontier colony of Vespera 9. Kale stood in the observation deck of the lunar embassy as the secure transmission played. Governor Mira Athen, dust-covered and exhausted, appeared above the hollow projector. Ambassador, she said, voice steady despite the strain. Our long-range scans detected cloak signatures entering the system. They didn't fire, didn't broadcast ID. They just circled. Watching. Kale leaned in. Dravik? Maybe. Or someone using Dravik tech. But they left something behind. The feed zoomed to a dark object drifting just beyond the colony's ring. Angular. Featureless. A surveillance seed. Illegal under every galactic accord. Kale's jaw tightened. You removed it? Mira gave a sharp nod. Quarantined and shipped quietly to the embassy. It's waiting on your desk. Kale closed the line and exhaled slowly. Another piece of the puzzle. Someone was preparing a narrative where Earth looked dangerous, unpredictable, uncontrolled. It didn't end there. The next wave of intelligence came from the Terran Navy. Admiral Rhea Kestrel appeared via direct link, her uniform immaculate, hair tied in a severe knot that matched her expression. We've intercepted communications from 3 Council fleets, she said. They're running joint drills near Deathworld-class sectors. Kale frowned. Joint drills? Those species can barely cooperate in a meeting. Exactly. And the maneuvers are coordinated around Earth-aligned routes. He stared at the star map she projected. Red arcs carved through trade lanes. Blue markers indicated human science outposts. You're telling me they're rehearsing an encirclement? Kale said quietly. They're preparing for something, the Admiral replied. And they're not bothering to hide it. Kale pinched the bridge of his nose. How long until they're ready? 3 months. Maybe less. Then we prepare faster. Rhea offered the smallest smile, sharp, lethal, proud. Already underway. Within hours, Phase 1 of Earth's contingency plan began. Frontier colonies received sealed directives. Civilian shuttles were fitted with auto-scramblers. Stealth frigates disappeared from public registries. Orbital shipyards accelerated production under false maintenance logs. Even Earth's diplomatic staff received survival protocols disguised as cultural training packets. Kale oversaw the non-military side, information, alliances, psychology. If the Council wanted to shape a story, he would rewrite it. His first step was subtle, conversations. Diplomacy was rarely about what was said openly. It was about the quiet exchanges between lines. Kale made a point of meeting with the Dolan envoy, Elder Nehru, a crystalline being whose species valued foresight and neutrality. They met in the Citadel's atrium, surrounded by levitating gardens and softly glowing sculptures. I hear troubling rumors, Nehru murmured, the tones resonating like glass wind chimes. They say Earth's expansion threatens the balance. Kale folded his hands. Expansion is not aggression. Perception shapes decision. Nehru countered gently. That perception is being manipulated, Kale replied. Ships vanish near Dravik borders. Evidence appears too conveniently. It's crafted. Nehru's facets dimmed slightly, a sign of contemplation. If what you imply is true, chaos may follow. It already has, Kale said. And it will worsen unless someone listens. Nehru didn't promise support. Their species never did. But their final words lingered. The ancient races forget that new species rise with hungry minds. Kale's second stop was less pleasant, the Sarn ambassador. Ambassador Threx greeted him with a snarl, mandibles clicking in disdain. The insected warrior species had always viewed humans as upstart creatures who evolved too quickly to trust. You asked for an audience, Threx said. Speak. Kale studied him steadily. Your fleets have been sighted shadowing Terran routes. Explain. Threx chittered in amusement. We observe threats. Observation doesn't require jamming our comm arrays. Now Threx paused, only for a heartbeat, but enough. You accuse us? Threx hissed. No, Kale said calmly. I'm warning you. Whoever orchestrates this wants your species to take the blame for the opening strike. You are being used. Threx's mandibles froze mid-click. The implication hit precisely as Kale intended. Plant doubt. Shift pressure. Disrupt the unity forming against Earth. That was how small civilizations survived. As weeks passed, the pressure on Earth intensified. Trade routes tightened. Negotiations stalled. Patrols grew bold. Even the media arms of several elder species began airing propaganda segments about Terran instability. Yet behind the scenes, Earth was not idle. Kale coordinated with intelligence operatives, reviewing captured data packets smuggled from Allied informants. One transmission stood out, a garbled recording from a council laboratory researching something classified as Project Emberfall. Kale replayed the footage again and again. The shapes floating in the containment tanks weren't weapons. They were organisms, engineered, volatile, rapidly mutating. A biological attack vector. It was the proof he needed. But releasing it too early would only isolate Earth further. Timing was everything. He needed the Council to commit fully to their narrative, then he would detonate the truth beneath their feet. By the time he returned to the Citadel for the final vote, Kale had already predicted the result. The Council was marching toward conflict with the confidence of creatures who had forgotten they could bleed. And Kale was prepared for the next phase. But even he hadn't expected the alarms. The breach. The panic. Something else was moving through the Citadel, a presence he hadn't anticipated. As he left the Council chamber after the disastrous vote, his wrist console vibrated with a secure message. Phase 2 ready. Initiate when conditions met. Kale stopped in the empty corridor, staring at the words. The plan was unfolding, but something, had accelerated the timeline. He slipped the console back into his coat and resumed walking, the metal walkway humming under his boots. Fear was spreading through the galaxy. And fear was the one thing Kale knew how to navigate better than anyone alive. The war hadn't begun. But the foundation for it, the quiet, invisible architecture of manipulation and truth, had already been laid. And Kale was ready to push the galaxy to its tipping point. Kale stepped into the diplomatic transport, the doors sealing behind him with a muted hiss. The interior lights dimmed, shifting to a warm amber tone that signaled encrypted isolation. No signals in. No signals out. Total privacy. He sat, exhaled once, and activated the console embedded in the table. A soft hum filled the cabin as dozens of layered security protocols aligned. Only when the final lock clicked into place did the screen brighten. Admiral Rhea Kestrel appeared, arms folded behind her, posture sharp as a drawn blade. "Ambassador," she said, "we saw the vote." Kale nodded. "Exactly as predicted. We also detected the system breach at the Citadel," Rhea continued. "Was that your doing?" "No." His voice stayed calm. "And that's the problem." Rhea's eyebrows pulled together. "Explain." Kale tapped the console. A series of distorted sensor logs appeared. Citadel security feeds scrambled during the breach. Adaptive waves of interference bent around corners, masked hallways, erased identities. It wasn't human. Too fluid. Too precise. "Something infiltrated the Citadel's inner systems," Kale said. "It moved with confidence. It wanted to be seen only in fragments. Enemy? Or someone desperate to remain unrecognized?" Rhea studied him, then leaned forward. "Earth didn't do this." "No. That leaves only Council factions. Or a species operating off books." Kale felt a cold certainty coil in his chest. "Exactly. And whichever it is, they're accelerating the march toward war." Rhea's gaze hardened. "Then we accelerate our preparations." The call ended. The ship shifted into autopilot, heading toward the Terran embassy compound in the Citadel's diplomatic district. Kale closed his eyes briefly. He had expected resistance. He had expected deception. But a rogue actor operating inside the Citadel itself? That changed everything. The embassy's war room buzzed with tension as he entered. Officers, analysts, and covert operatives crowded the holotable. Maps of Council territories glowed overhead, zones pulsing red, yellow, and blue depending on risk. Chief Analyst Leora Vance stepped toward him, her sleeves rolled up, eyes sharp. "Ambassador, we need you." Kale joined her at the display. "What's our status?" Leora pointed to a cluster of blinking markers near the Dravik border. 3 hours ago, A scout vessel from the Vesperan colony intercepted encrypted bursts from an unknown source. Origin traces back to the Citadel. Same pattern as the breach? Kale asked. Worse, Liara said. These messages were routed directly to Dravik military channels. Kale stared at the map. So the saboteur inside the Citadel is feeding intel to Vorith. Liara swallowed. And the content suggests troop mobilization directives. Kale's jaw tightened. They're preparing for a first strike. The room fell silent. Not because it was unexpected, but because it confirmed Earth's worst scenario. Kale turned to the team. Put all civilian transports under stealth protocols. Divert trade convoys. Begin shadow evacuations on frontier worlds. Liara nodded sharply. Already in motion. He hesitated for a single breath. And activate the fallback networks. All of them. Liara froze. Ambassador, that's a declaration of internal mobilization. It's insurance, Kale said. Not aggression. But the Council. The Council already decided what we are. Liara swallowed her debate and complied. Orders spread like lightning. Night fell on the Citadel's outer habitat rings, though the artificial sky offered a calm illusion of stars and drifting clouds. From the balcony of the Terran embassy, the core stars glimmered in a lattice of swirling blues and golds, beautiful, distant, indifferent. Kale gripped the railing, the metal cool beneath his hands. Thinking of escaping? A voice teased. Kale turned to find Liao Ren, Earth's cultural liaison, stepping beside him. Her smile was small, tired, but real. Only if you come with me, Kale replied. Liao leaned on the railing. I heard about the vote. And the breach. Word spreads fast around here. Kale's lips quirked. I'm surprised they haven't accused Earth of causing the artificial weather to misbehave. They will, Liao said dryly. Then her gaze softened. You're carrying a lot. Kale looked back toward the Citadel's central spire. Its lights flickered in irregular patterns, a reminder of the system still struggling. Someone is moving pieces behind the scenes, Kale said. Someone who benefits from chaos. And Earth is the scapegoat, Liao finished. He nodded. Leah's hand brushed his arm lightly. You'll handle it. You always do. Kale didn't answer. Because this time, he wasn't sure. At dawn's cycle, Kale received another encrypted message, this one from Elder Nehru. The crystalline diplomat appeared in the hollow projection, facets shimmering with unease. Ambassador Mercer, Nehru said, voice resonating through harmonic tones. I bring troubling news. During a private review of the Council's classified archives, I discovered sealed records involving Project Emberfall. Kale went still. You accessed Emberfall? I was not meant to, Nehru admitted. But certain irregularities prompted concern. What did you find? Kale asked. Nehru's light dimmed. Warnings. Files declaring the project unstable. A risk assessment predicting catastrophic consequences if deployed. Kale's blood ran cold. Emberfall is a weapon. A biological catalyst, Nehru said. Designed to adapt across species. Who authorized it? Nehru hesitated. High Consul Vorith. Kale inhaled sharply. Emberfall explained everything, the staged incidents, the propaganda, the maneuvering. If Vorith intended to deploy such a weapon, then blaming Earth first would give him justification. A shield. A narrative of necessity. Why tell me this? Kale asked. Nehru looked at him with refracted sorrow. Because my species remembers what happens when ancient powers grow comfortable. New minds rise. Old orders fall. Balance shifts. Kale met the elder's gaze. You believe Earth will resist. I believe Earth will survive, Nehru said softly. And the galaxy may need that. The transmission ended. Kale stood alone in the briefing chamber, the implications echoing in the hollow quiet. If Vorith controlled Emberfall, the war would not be about territory. It would be about survival. And Earth had just been pushed to the front line. He returned to the war room. Prepare a secure transmission to Admiral Kestrel, he ordered. Tell her Emberfall is active and under Dravik command. Leora's eyes widened. Then they're preparing for biological escalation. Yes, Kale said. And they think we won't strike back. Leora swallowed. What's your instruction? Kale straightened. We proceed to Phase 3. The room froze. Phase 3 was never supposed to happen unless Earth faced annihilation. Kale met each officer's gaze, steady, resolved. They've forced our hand, he said. Now we show the galaxy exactly why they fear us. Earth had not fired a shot. Not yet. But Kale could feel the shift, an invisible tide turning. Humanity's silent hand was moving at last. The chamber's lights dimmed as the Galactic Council's emergency session commenced. Representatives filled the tiers in rigid silence, their expressions a blend of calculation and fear. The holographic sphere at the center displayed the most unwelcome sight in Council history: Earth's battle group emerging from the Worm Gate, one vessel after another, moving with the calm precision of predators who had no natural enemies left to fear. Ambassador Ralthor kept his composure only through sheer force of will. Humanity was not supposed to respond this fast. They were not supposed to understand the Council's encrypted message. They were not supposed to deploy a fleet that even the Council's war theorists struggled to model. They arrived instantly, murmured Veclin, her voice trembling as she read the data. This travel signature, there's no drift, no temporal destabilization. It's impossible. General Carvox clenched his jaw. Impossible is becoming a human specialty. Across the room, the hologram flickered again, this time revealing Jonas Hale, standing at the command deck of the UN dreadnought Resolute Dawn. No longer a diplomat. Now something far more dangerous. He gave a courteous nod, as if greeting familiar colleagues. Council representatives. His voice projected, calm and controlled. I hope this is a convenient moment. Carvox shot to his feet. Hale, withdraw your fleet. The Milky Way's security is our jurisdiction. It was, Jonas replied, until you declared war on my species. Ralthor inhaled sharply. We declared war because you forced our hand. Your planet's ascent, unfiltered, unchecked, threatens the equilibrium of the entire galactic structure. Jonas didn't blink. You mean your structure? The one built on suppressing younger civilizations until they break. His eyes hardened. Humanity's done breaking. The council chamber erupted in overlapping protests. Jonas waited until the uproar faded, then folded his hands behind his back. You opened hostilities. Earth responded. What happens next depends on what you say in the next 10 minutes. General Carvox snarled. You are outnumbered, outgunned, and surrounded by empires older than your species' ability to walk upright. Jonas leaned slightly closer, quieting the room simply by refusing to raise his voice. You're assuming this is our whole fleet. Even Ralthor paled. You brought more? He whispered. Jonas simply smiled. In orbit above the council station, the Resolute Dawn signaled. Space folded like soft metal. What emerged next forced the council's orbital sensors to stutter, reset, and attempt to classify something they had no historical precedent for. The Earth Vanguard Armada, humanity's most advanced war formation, a coordinated web of dreadnoughts, stealth carriers, and experimental hybrid craft, each engineered using the very council technology they had banned humans from accessing. But humanity had accessed it anyway. And improved it. Admiral Saren watched the sensor readings flare on the station monitors. Her voice dropped barely above a whisper. By the core, they solved the energy compression paradox. Ralthor's remaining composure fractured. He gripped the edges of his console. You solved it decades ago. That research was locked. Impossible to obtain. Jonas responded gently. You forget something, Ambassador. Humans are excellent at solving problems no one asked them to solve. Carvox slammed both fists against his armrest. This is intimidation. No, Jonas said. This is preparation. You declared war because you feared us. Now you see the thing you feared wasn't the problem. Your intentions were. A long moment hung between them, heavy, brittle. Ralthor forced his trembling hands still. Hail. Jonas. What do you want? The same thing humanity wanted when we entered the galactic stage, Jonas replied. Fair treatment. Equal footing. Peace that doesn't require humanity to stay small. Carvox scoffed. Peace? After threatening us with annihilation? Jonas shook his head. You misunderstand. If we wanted annihilation, we wouldn't have contacted you first. The statement hung like a cold knife over the chamber. Silence drowned the hall. Jonas held it for a beat before continuing. Humanity is offering a single, final choice. A treaty, mutual recognition, open borders, scientific exchange, and the immediate cessation of suppression protocols on emerging young species. Veklin's eyes widened. You're negotiating on behalf of all pre-space civilizations? Yes, Jonas said. What you did to Earth won't happen to anyone else. Ralthor stared at him, processing. And if we refuse? Jonas didn't smile this time. His expression sharpened with a truth that left no room for interpretation. Then you'll lose a war you started before understanding the species you picked to fight with. The council recessed in stunned silence. Behind the sealed deliberation shields, panic spread like wildfire. Generals argued. Diplomats pleaded reason. Some demanded preemptive strikes. Others whispered of surrender. Carvox stood before the assembled leaders. We cannot accept their terms. If we acknowledge human parity, our authority dissolves. The balance collapses. Ralthor faced him, voice steady but worn. Carvox, the balance has already collapsed. We pushed them. We cornered them. Now they're stronger than we projected, and more unified than we expected. He turned toward the shimmering image of Earth's fleet hovering outside the station. Perhaps the Council's era is ending. Perhaps it should. In the observation deck of the Resolute Dawn, Jonas watched the station swirl with frantic motion. Commander Lu approached quietly. Do you think they'll accept? Jonas exhaled. They're afraid. Empires make poor decisions when they're afraid. And us? Lu asked. Jonas glanced at her. We don't want their throne. We want their respect. That makes us unpredictable to them. And a threat, she added. A necessary one. Inside the council chamber, the deliberation shields dropped. Ralthor stood at the podium, voice carrying across the chamber with the weight of a man who felt centuries of political structure tilt under his feet. Ambassador Hale, he said. The Galactic Council accepts negotiations. Jonas didn't celebrate. He only nodded. Good. Let's begin. But Carvox wasn't finished. He strode forward, eyes burning. You're forcing us into submission. Jonas met him with unwavering calm. No. I'm forcing you to treat humanity as equals. Carvox drew closer, his voice lowering to a growl. You've changed the galaxy, Hale. Irreversibly. Jonas's answer came without hesitation. That was the point. The treaty negotiations lasted 6 grueling hours. When it ended, a new charter had been written, one that redefined galactic law, dismantled oppressive systems, and recognized Earth as a sovereign equal. As Jonas prepared to disconnect the feed, Ralthor spoke once more. Hale, when history records this day, what do you think they'll remember? Jonas paused, thoughtful. That the Council declared war, and Earth offered peace with a warning. He gave a small, tired grin. And that was the moment the galaxy finally listened. The connection ended. Beyond the station, Earth's fleet held formation, not withdrawn, not threatening, but watching. A new era had begun. And every species in the galaxy felt it.